Hey guys, and welcome into the Reseller Room podcast. This podcast is designed to help you start or grow your reselling business. We're really excited for today's conversation.
Today we are joined by Jesse from Peak Collectibles. He's been a longtime Discord member, turned friend, and now store owner. We're going to dive into a lot of really fun conversations with him. Jesse, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, hey, let's get into it. All right, Jesse, as we dive into our conversation today, I'd love to just hear a little bit about you. For those of you that are listening that don't know who Jesse is, he is the owner and operator of Peak Collectibles and a member of our Discord as well. So, Jesse, just kind of tell us who you are, what your story is, and how you got into reselling.
Sure, yeah. So, my name is Jesse Bauman. I own Peak Collectibles in Tehachapi, California. My wife and I decided to open up a physical storefront in our small town early last year. Prior to that, what led up to that happening was I'd been in reselling since 2016. I started it because I wanted the next new Call of Duty game. I didn't have the money for it, so I thought I'll just sell some of this old stuff I don't have to get the new stuff that I want. And then I started looking a little bit more and saw people were selling other things that I thought I could sell to get more games, and then it just spiraled out of control from there. So
That's how
I've been a
happens.
reseller. I call it my addiction. I love buying things probably more than I love selling them, but it's been a huge blast. So I work full time, married, father of three. I got three girls, ages 4 and under, have a small farm, 24 chickens, 2 ducks, 2 dogs.
There we go.
6 fish, 2 cats. So I've got my hands full, but God's blessed me and my family with everything that I have in our business. And that's where we're at today. We've been
awesome.
steadily growing since we opened up last year, and it's just been a really exciting ride.
That all sounds amazing except for the 2 cats. I'd be out on that.
Oh, no.
I'll tell you what, I was not for it until I realized there was no way I was getting my rodent issue up here because we live in the mountains.
Yeah.
There was no way I was able to control it. We bought 2 cats. They're barn cats.
There you
and
go.
the first day we let them out, they took out gophers, rats, mice, like everything. And I said, you
Let
know
him go
what?
free.
I'm a cat guy now.
All right, they're pulling their weight. That's a good thing.
They are.
So
Yeah,
what did
definitely.
you do for a career before you got into the reselling just a couple years ago?
So when I first got into reselling, I was actually just started about the same time in my professional career, my full-time job, which I still hold as a senior environmental health and safety. So I do in-house compliance for different companies. And so I've been at my current job for almost 6 years now. I started reselling when I was with my last one for about 9 years. So I've been doing health and safety full-time. And I've been doing that since basically I started reselling. So I currently work a full-time job and run a full-time business.
That's awesome. So you stay pretty busy with 3 under 4, you said?
Yeah. So I got a 6-month-old, 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old.
So free time is a myth for you.
Yeah.
I don't have free time.
I was about
I
to
always
say,
tell people when they come into the shop and talk to me about, especially games, have you played this one? And I have to tell them straight up,
I defeated the
I'm a
chickens
bad
yesterday.
nerd.
And,
I sell thousands of games and cards and comics, but I don't have any time to play any of them.
yeah. So I remember when we first started talking, maybe like 3 years ago now. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think it's about two and a half,
Two and
somewhere
a
in
half.
that time frame.
You were teaching me a lot about comics. Kind of tell me about the evolution of, kind of how you've transitioned into doing a lot with comics to a lot with games to a lot with cards, and how that has changed for you and how that led to the store you have now.
Yeah, was comics the thing
Sure.
that you started with, or were video games your first thing?
So video games, they were the first thing. They were the thing that I knew the most about at the time because I grew up, me and my brothers are within about 2 years of age between the 3 of us. And we all shared a tiny little room. And we just played a lot of video games. Every time the new COD came out, a new Halo came out, or anything like that, we would pool our money together, buy it, play it till we played it out, and then do the next thing with the next one. So I grew up playing video games quite a bit. And then it wasn't until about 4 years or so ago where And, as a reseller, you just happen to, you're always looking for the next big deal. And I managed to find somebody who had a big collection of stuff. It included a bunch of like die-cast cars, figures, and comic books. And I had never sold comic books before. So I bought this collection. And as I was going through it, I started to really enjoy the artwork on comic books. And actually, my wife bought me my first comic book not long before that. So I kind of had some interest, and it was a Star Wars book. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So I just jumped right into it, and comics takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time because you have to bag and board them. You have to observe the condition, and then you have to price them based on condition. And then, I probably have somewhere in the neighborhood of, 20,000 comics, wow, give or take. And I know that more than half of them I'll just never sell, because even though they have value, if you were to go on eBay and see something's worth $3 to $5, there's 100 of them and no one's buying any of them. But over the years, I've made comics a priority for our business. I really love going to comic cons and then small events, pop-ups, because that's the best place to sell comic books, in my opinion. And I just love the community around comics because people have been into them sometimes for 40, 50 years. And comics has grown with them as they've just grown in age. And so there's a lot of personal identity that people find in collecting comics. And I really appreciate that as somebody that can help provide that book to somebody that's looking for it and they've been collecting it for decades. And I know a lot of people longer than I've been alive. But so I got into that. And then when we opened our brick and mortar last year, I thought we were going to be the bee's knees of video games in our city. No video game store. The only place in town really selling video games is Walmart. And I thought video games are the end all be all. Yep. And we started putting in 10 to 20 singles of Pokemon, not thinking anything of it, just trying to be diversified. Yeah. And people started buying more. And then people started selling us some. And then fast forward to today, and Pokemon probably accounts for upwards of 80% of our total sales through the shop.
Now, is that all used or sealed product, or?
So it's both. It's sealed product and it's singles. We also sell a lot of graded cards. We offer very generous cash and trade rates to people because we know how valuable and easy it is to move Pokemon. So we're not stingy about it. We pay pretty well on it. And so people bring us a lot of stuff. So we do a lot in the way of single raw cards, graded cards, a lot of sealed product. We've been very fortunate to have distribution for new sealed products. And we also, where we can, we like to purchase sealed product in the secondary market. So Pokemon is a big thing for us. Our biggest thing. We also are expanding into Magic the Gathering. Disney Lorcana has actually been picking up for us a lot lately. Okay. So it's just really fun that we get to be able to provide the things that people are looking for, even though some are a little more niche than others, and that includes all categories of the collectibles that we sell in our shop.
Yeah. So you kind of started off originally doing video games just because you wanted to be able to collect some things and not hit your 9 to 5 budget for it and be able to use kind of some extra spending money to do that. So when you first did the comics, did you know what you had when you first bought that collection, or was it just like, we're going to take a swing at this and see what happens?
Yeah. How much education went into that purchase?
A lot of education went into that purchase. A lot. So I had managed to flip through them, and I saw probably 20 or 30 Spider-Man books, like somewhere between the 100 to 200 issue range. And I thought, well, I know I can sell Spider-Man, and there were a couple other ones, and I figured that I could make that work. And then the rest of them, I just thought, we'll just see how it goes. So it was a pay-for education experience for sure. And I just kind of went into it. And sometimes as I was going through it, I would look up a book and I'd tell my wife, I'm like, this is $20. This is a $20 book. This is a $40 book. And a lot of them were $3 to $5, but it was great because not long after that, I ended up attending as a vendor a local convention, not local to me, but down in Anaheim. And I brought these books there in my little 2x8 table, put my books out there with my brother, thinking, gosh, I hope I can at least make my money back for what it cost us to get here. And an hour in, I'd made like $200, and I thought, this is insane. I've made it. Comics are going to make me rich. Still learning comics. It's it's an ever evolving thing for sure.
When you first started, what was your main vessel for selling? So obviously buying, I'm assuming you did garage sales or Facebook market posts or stuff like that. What was your main vessel for selling when it came time to actually getting this stuff out?
For comic books specifically?
Yeah.
It was definitely the shows, the conventions, because while I would sell some at a yard sale, a little bit online, it was mostly the shows where people were willing to actually pay money for the books. Because when it comes to comic books, condition is everything, and it's really, really hard. Even with I think eBay's 24 photos nowadays.
Yep.
Even with that many photos, it's still hard to capture every page and the spines and the corners and the front and the back, the staples and everything else. It's just so much easier when you're there at an event and people can look and know exactly what they're getting. And so that's been definitely the most profitable when it comes to comics. But, I did everything I could to sell them every which way. So like I said, yard sales, eBay, Mercari, but the shows were definitely the best, hands down.
That's cool. And so now you've kind of recently, over the past year and a half or so, taken a pretty major step where you still have a full-time job that you do. And then this side hustle has grown pretty significantly.
Yep.
And from what Skylar was telling me, you've started a store. Tell me about that. What led into that decision?
Yeah. So for years I had wanted my own shop, and that wasn't something I had no experience on. I know some people that own their own stores and have taken bits of information from them. And as we were progressing through our reselling, I would bring it up to my wife and she's like, I don't know. But then one day we had a conversation and it was brought up and she was like, let's try it. And so I was like, are you serious? Like, cause I mean, all I need is a yes. And like, we'll do this. And she's like, yeah, let's try it out. So we ended up starting our physical location last year in February. And to our benefit, I knew somebody that owned a building and they said, hey, you can use one of the rooms for your business. It was 195 square feet, not very big at all. And so I went through all the process with our city for permitting, the fire department, got our seller's permit, did everything that we had to do to be completely on the up and up. And so mid-February of last year, we opened up in this bedroom of a business, and we were only open on Saturdays because I work Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't have a property insurance policy, didn't have a security system. So I was loading in all of our inventory at the beginning and end of each day every week for a good 3 months, maybe. Man. Until I finally got a security system and I got the property insurance and everything else. And then I was able to start leaving it there. Thinking back on it, I thought, wow, that was some serious sweat equity poured into that business.
Yeah.
But I wanted to have proof of concept. And so my wife and I had agreed, well, let's give it 3 months and see how it goes. If it goes good, we'll give it another 3 months. And that was as far as either of us had thought ahead of time. Fast forward to middle of last year, we hired my brother as our first employee. We expanded our days to include Mondays and Wednesdays. And progressively over the months, we got more business, more product, more sales, more regular clientele. And then September
I'm
of
curious,
last year.
pausing for a second. Define good, because obviously you're married, and so your wife is a part of this decision making process. Because
absolutely,
it's her money too. What were the metrics for you when it means like defining that this works? Like, because that's very similar to even Chase's story. Is Chase, when he started this thing, it was just, hey, let's give this a 6 month or a 1 year or a 2 year trial, whatever it was. And he had certain metrics that defined good. What were those things for you and your wife when deciding if this was going to be sustainable?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, it was a little bit more arbitrary. We didn't have hard set metrics. We just kind of felt it out as we go, as we were going along with it. We didn't have like, we need to hit this minimum amount of monies because it was just me and it was my time. I mean, it was her time too, because, I ended up having a 6-day work week and she was the one that was home taking care of the house and taking care of the girls and the animals. So, we're both pouring in equal weight to this thing. But we just saw it month over month, our sales were continuing to grow. And it was awesome because on a Saturday we would do, it was like $1,200,
Wow.
$1,400, and it was hovering around that. And then we added Mondays and Wednesdays, and we would get like $200 to $400. I just wanted to make sure that we at least had enough to cover our cost of goods and then the payroll for our employee. And then that progressively got, the numbers just got higher and higher, and the inventory just kept stacking and stacking. And we were buying more stuff than we were selling, but we were still profiting. And I was like, man, we need more space. And so, without metrics, but we saw without specific metrics that we had set for ourselves, we saw our numbers growing. We saw our returning customers and percentages growing month over month, new customers month over month. And then we decided that we were going to move into a new place. And so September of last year, we moved into a new place that was about 500 square foot. And that's where we currently reside. And I'm hoping by end of next month to August, we actually open our new location just on the other side of the train tracks from where we're currently at right now. And that one's going to be about 1,400 square feet.
Wow. So as I hear you talk, I hear a lot about mitigating risk, especially maybe not exactly with like some of the analytics or numbers, but you were making informed decisions based on kind of you testing the waters. Now that you've been doing this for, let's see, a year and a half, looking to, goodness, what would that be? 7x your original space. What kind of numbers are you hoping to get? You can get as specific as you want from your current location to your new location. What does that open you up to do as far as hire more employees? Is your goal to just increase just what you're getting, to increase your buying power? What are some of your goals by making that change?
Yeah, great question. So what we saw when we moved from our first location to our next one was an immediate 2 times in sales, because we were able to offer so much more, and we actually went heavier in on marketing and advertising, more involvement with our local community. We also expanded to include Sundays at this current location. And we're expecting something relative to a 2 to 3 times increase because of the new products and offerings we're gonna have for our clients and our communities, and because there are certain aspects of marketing and advertising that we haven't even approached yet, because I'm already pretty tapped out with my time, my emotional and mental bandwidth right now. And so we wanted to wait until we got a little bit further, because we are looking to hire on another 2 part-time employees. We're going for 6 days a week being open. And we're also in the new location, we're allocating a pretty decent size of our floor layout specifically for play tables. Because right now our shop is too small where we can't actually set up tables for people to be able to play the game. That game being Magic, Pokemon, Lorcana, any tabletop stuff. We just don't have that now. But when we get into the new spot, we're going to be setting up multiple tables. We're going to have TVs on the wall for game tournaments. We've always talked about Smash Bros, Mario Kart, and probably anything else that people are willing to get competitive over. Those are going to be other things that we offer. Some of those things will be free to play events, and some of them will be scheduled, kind of entry fee tournaments that help us cover our overhead for our employees that are going to be there. But we're expecting, I'm very hopeful in the analytics that we have and projections that we'll see, a 2 to 3 times in our sales that we're currently seeing now, which is crazy for me to think, because the first quarter of this year, we did more in sales than all of last year.
Wow.
So we're expecting some pretty great things. And as we build our allocations with our distributors, we add new distributors, we add new products, we add new opportunities for our clients to engage in our store. We're really expecting that to just net us a pretty healthy return, because we are firm believers in you provide great service and you get a great return from that, because we're not owed anybody's business. We earn it really hard.
Well, it seems like you've scaled really responsibly and you've scaled with a level of intentionality. Like even hearing you talk about the tabletops and the TVs, like fostering that sense of community. Obviously, that's good marketing. You're getting people on the door. Those customers are more likely to convert into sales, which is awesome. But you're also kind of creating a brand of what Peak Collectibles means in the community as well. And that's a big deal because it seems like you guys are probably building a name for yourselves beyond just the things that you provide and the products that you have. I'm curious with your team, when did you hire your first employee and why? And then how have you scaled and how many team members do you have today?
So we ended up hiring my brother as our store manager to, run the shop during the week and to kind of oversee and take some of my other responsibilities that I didn't personally have to do. So we hired him June of last year, and we wanted to add more days because we were able to have proof of concept that Saturdays were profitable. People were showing up. They were not only buying from us, but selling to us. And we thought, okay, well, let's increase these opportunities because people would reach out to us on Facebook and Instagram and say, I can't make it on Saturdays because, my kids got a sports, or I can't make it on Saturdays because I work weekends. And so we thought, okay, well, let's try and balance this out a little bit. Notoriously, weekdays are, a bit slower because people are either at work or at school, but we went forward with that and it worked out well for us. We moved to the new location and we ended up hiring a few more people. We scaled back from that. So right now we currently have 3 employees. And we're running Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then we're going to be looking, like I said, to add another 2 part-time employees to kind of bridge the gap between, get us some more coverage during the week too, because it's important to us that the people that work on our team, because we appreciate them so much and we want to let them know, we want to build into them as well. It means a lot to have good people that you can work with. You can have a great worker and independently they can still do a great job, and they do. When you have community too at work, you guys are a great example. When you have other good people around you, you just feel more driven to have more fun and do more good work.
Oh, it's all a show. We all hate each other. Don't worry.
Yeah, after the cameras go off, me and Thane are going to go fist fight downstairs.
No, it's cool because I enjoy watching all the videos that, Chase and team put out on the various channels and the podcast. And, there's things about your guys' dynamic that I've taken hints away from to be able to apply into my business. And so we want to hire people not only to give us more coverage during the week, but so that we can have, 2-person teams on days so that they can help each other out, share the workload, and then also, have friendship to be able to keep them busy throughout the day.
Yeah, I think workplace culture is one of those things that can be so hard to do after you already have a team. So the fact that you're thinking about that now as you grow, kudos to you. It's I think it can be challenging to figure that out and figure out dynamics, especially as you hire people, and to kind of set the framework for what that looks like.
And that's one thing Chase has done really well is because Chase, he was a one-man operation for a long time. Like he was a one-man operation, then it was a 2-man operation, similar to your story where he's kind of scaling at the speed of what the business needed. But for him, he's had to change what his part of the business looks like. Like when he first was doing it, he was editing all the YouTube videos. He was buying everything. He was selling everything. He was doing all of those, to where as the team has grown, his job has had to change, and he's had to change as a leader. He's had to change how he spends his time. I'm curious for you, how does your time look differently now, or how will it look differently as you even open up this new location versus how it did back at the very, very beginning as you were getting ready to just go into that first space?
So, I like to think as I add new people to our team and as our team grows that my responsibilities will shrink in turn, but that doesn't happen. The more we grow, the more my responsibilities do. And that's not put in any kind of negative light. Yeah. It's just as our team is growing, our location is growing, our products are growing, our distributors are growing. And there's, I used to say I didn't want to be a business operator. I wanted to be a business owner. But
Well, what do you see as I'm
to-
curious. What's the difference between those two for you?
So in my mind, the difference is, a business owner generally is somebody who's laid down the work, the foundation of their company. They've set procedures, they've trained their team, and they've essentially, in most instances, kind of wash their hands free from the regular responsibility of the business. Whether they're sick or on vacation or something else that puts them out for days, weeks, or months, the business can still go on. Somebody who wants to just kind of build something up and say, okay, now you thrive and I'm going to go do something else. As a business operator, they're the individuals that are just in tune with the things that are happening with their business. They're in the store, they're making orders, they're talking with employees, they're talking with the community, they're engaging regularly. So they're not, so far separated. And I used to want to be just the business owner so that I could free up my time and do something else. But over the last couple months, I've realized that I do appreciate being the business operator versus the business owner mindset that I was kind of aiming for, because I love being in our shop. I love talking with our community. I love my team. I love seeing new stuff come in through the doors. I can't help myself. I love to buy. It's just so much fun. And I love being able to help people have good experiences, not just with my business or my team, but like within the community. Because right now, around pretty much every category of collectibles, there's a lot of unhappy people, right? Prices are too high, products too low in supply. And so, not enough. And so people are marking it up, and it's really difficult for people to want to stay in the hobby, or there's fake products or misrepresented products. And we want to not only offer the opposite of all those things, but we want to offer it so great that people still feel the love for the things that they like collecting in the community, so that they don't want to be like, you know what, Pokemon is just too expensive right now. It doesn't matter where you go. It's overpriced. My kids can't get into it. I can't stay in it. I'm just going to sell the stuff and I'm going to go invest in Bitcoin. I don't know, which not a bad idea. But we want to keep people in the hobby. And we've been seeing that based on the conversations that we have with our community and the clients that visit us regularly. We see that in our reviews on Google. I actually just saw right now, we got another review. I think we're at 99 reviews right now, and we just launched our Google page September of last year. I've got
Let's get them to 100.
98 5-star reviews and 1 4-star review.
Okay.
And the guy who left the 4-star review didn't even say why. And it hurts a little bit.
Hey, just think he misclicked. He misclicked.
Yeah, but you know what? The reviews that we get, people are just there. Some of them it's just 5-star reviews, but some people are like, I'm making memories with my kids that I and they will have for the rest of our lives by being, clients and part of the community that our business provides. So I love that. And I, as a business operator, I'm wanting to lean into that. So I know that was a long-winded answer to your original question, but as our team grows, I expect my responsibilities to grow as they have since we opened up last February. But the hope in that is that one day, hopefully soon, I get a transition out of my full-time job and run my business full time. And then I'll free up some time so I can, be with my family some more, and we can look into new opportunities on, how we get to live this one life that we have. And my kids are only small once. And every day I wake up, my knees hurt a little bit more. I'm like, I am not getting any younger. So I'm trying to really use
I was going to ask what kind of sacrifices are you finding you have to make? I guess on a couple of levels. I mean, we have work and we have life, right? So on work, to be able to create that environment that you're talking about for your customers, what kind of sacrifices do you have to make to provide that environment for them? You can't necessarily control the supply that you're getting from suppliers, and there's more demand, for Pokemon cards than ever. And then what kind of sacrifices do you see yourself having to make, maybe on the home level or the hobby level? I think you already alluded to, I can't play video games anymore because I'm too busy with everything else.
Right. So, Yeah, business ownership, whether it's brick and mortar, which I can speak to now, or if it's just reselling out of your home, either one, comes with a lot of sacrifices. You sacrifice your time where you could be spending doing the hobby things, time spent with your family, time spent on responsibilities, right? So we own our home, we have animals, we have cars, and all of those things need upkeep. They need to be taken care of. And kids, they require a lot of attention. And then also my time with my wife, my time with my family, you only have so much. And so when you put time towards your business, you're taking time away from all of those other things. And that is a sacrifice that, we've been making for years now. And it's a conversation that my wife and I have regularly to understand that there's purpose for this sacrifice, that it's not just, we're just doing this thing and who knows where it's going to go. We're doing it with intentionality. Because it's not just time, it's emotion, especially people think that talking, how can that, wear you out? But the reality is when I have a day full of good interactions with people in our community and enthusiastic and laughing, and sometimes it's crying, the interactions that we have with people because they're in hard times, or we give them an offer on something and it blows them away and they need it more than anything. Sometimes I come home at the end of the day and I am just drained.
The social battery is one people left over. Don't really factor in frequently.
Say that again, sorry?
The social battery that people have, I don't think people factor in. Normally it's I'm physically worn down at work, but the mental drain, or just interacting with people all day is tough.
Well, and there's the weight of having employees too, because you probably feel a sense of responsibility to say, man, I have to run this business in a way that I can provide for these guys. These guys are giving me their time, and they've got families and they've got things that are pulling on them, and that responsibility can weigh out. I think that's one of the things with entrepreneurship that people don't always give enough weight, is they're well, everything's up and to the left. Everything is going well. It's going well. That's great.
Right.
But there's still the weight of every single month is not going to be more profitable than the last. That's just not the reality of seasons. And so I'd be curious from you. So you're still in your full-time job. You're considering stepping out of that full-time career into owning and operating the store fully. What has that conversation been like? And when do you think it's the right time to do that, whether it's for you or for someone else?
That's a really good question. And, a lot of that depends on, the person or the people in a relationship that are making that decision. I have a mentor of mine. He's actually my first mentor in comic books. He's taught me just an absolute ton. So his name is Jeff Dixon, and he's been in comics for 40 odd years. And he is the most selfless person that I've met in business so far. And I called him up. He was the first person I talked to after talking to my wife about hey, I don't want to work every minute of my life forever. And I don't even want to work 9 hours a day, 5 days a week, doing something that I don't absolutely love. I drive an hour to work. I'm there for 9.5 hours, and I drive an hour back. That's my day. And I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, but work gets the best of us, family gets the rest of us. And there's a lot of truth to that. That social battery, that physical energy is drained out throughout the day, and you come home, and I've got a 6-month-old, a 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old that want my attention, but it's just so hard to give it to them, and my time to my wife. And so my wife and I were talking about that. I said, I want to feel joy in the things that I do. And I'm just not feeling that as much. And don't get me wrong, I'm thankful for my job. It blesses us and has allowed our business to grow at this rate, as successful as it is, because we take nothing from our business. I don't take any money from it. It all goes back in. I take nothing. So we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And aside from meals here and there and, writing off mileage one way or another, we don't take money. I don't take a paycheck. So my business has helped me, my job has helped me make that possible in my business. But we're at this point where our kids are growing up. And so we're making that decision on how we want to spend our time and how we spend our efforts. So I reached out after having a conversation with my wife to my mentor, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about this. My wife and I are talking about this. Give me something, man. What do I need to do? And he says, this is very simple. Sit down with your wife and write out a pros and cons list. Capture as many things as you possibly can. Write them all down. Talk about them. Do this together, not independently. And so we did that.
It's crazy that
we did a standard 8 by 11 and a half sheet of piece of paper. And one side was cons and one side was pros. And the cons were just top to bottom and over to the side. And the cons were, just up here. Now, don't get me wrong. Those cons were inconsistent pay, no medical insurance, those types of things. And it's like, okay, well, that may carry a little bit more weight than not having to set an alarm in the morning, but that still means something to me. So we wrote out our pros and cons, and we've just been, we've been discussing them between us. I seek out wise counsel from other people that I trust and that understand business and understand me. Fortunately, I have family. My father-in-law owns his own hobby shop, so I've been, consulting with him. A lot of prayer too, because it's just, we can make all these plans and it can all be for nothing. We only have so much control, but we're just getting to the point where, we just want to live our lives as much together as a family versus, apart. And being able to go full time in my business will probably introduce new stresses that I'm not familiar with, but I have an idea of what it might look like. But I get to have my mornings with my family. I can see them in the middle of the day for lunch if they want to come to my, my shop, our shop, our business. And then I get to see them at the end of the day. And that seems like such an obscure possibility. Like, wait, you get to see your family 2-3 times a day, every day. And it's like,
how do you put a price on that?
And
right.
Yeah. So it's just something that we're leaning into. So we're slowly working towards that path. Our business is steadily growing, very thankful for that. But then we also have plans, like you had mentioned it earlier, Thane, about kind of building a brand around what we're doing.
Yeah.
I have plans to open up more locations. I have plans for branding and merchandise. I have all kinds of ideas. I'm not a small picture. I'm a big picture. Some of these ideas might be 15 years out, but they are still in there when I make every decision on some new thing that we do or something we don't do. Because anything that, we do in our business that I do personally, it has to be the best possible way that it can be done. And it has to be good for more than just us.
Yeah. I love the intentionality of that mindset. I think there's so much that you just said in those last couple of minutes that is just so valuable, is that you sat down with your wife and there's a purpose and a direction behind why you're making the decisions that you're making. It's not just a bottom line thing. It's not just how much money can I make in X amount of times. It's you're factoring in the stage of life where your kids are at, what you want, what your time away from work looks like, what your identity outside of it as an owner operator looks like. That's such a valuable thing. And kudos to you for having the discipline to say, we're going to build this thing and not try to suck the momentum and the energy out of it by taking a large portion of the profit and reinvesting that into it, because you have an intentionality, purpose of where you wanted it to get. Is you're not just doing this to make more money on the side. You're doing this because you want to be able to embrace the lifestyle that having and owning a business affords. And that's a big deal. Most people wouldn't have the patience that you have to do that, man. So kudos to you, man. That's a big deal.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's hard to say no to the money that's there. Yeah. Knowing that, like, if we really need it, we can take, it's our money, and we could, but those are conversations that my wife and I would have. And sometimes it was really hard to see how much money that the business has, that could be really helpful for us. I mean, we just had, 6 months ago, we had our third kid, out of hospital because of the type of care that my wife and I wanted for this last pregnancy. And that cost us, like 10,000+ out of pocket. We had to fix up a car, cost another $3-4 grand. And then, so things add up, and it's really easy to look at that money and go, you know what? maybe we go a month without a bunch of new inventory, but then it's like, but that's not sustainable.
Yeah, when the realities of life come in, it can be easy to waver.
Yeah.
But then you had something.
Yeah, I'm so interested in you talked a little bit about how your current job, your current full-time kind of career 9-to-5 job has afforded you and has been a blessing to you in a lot of ways. How have you maintained a level of, and I'm assuming you have just because of the character of who you are, but how have you maintained a level of commitment to that, knowing that long term that the store is what you want to do? What has that been like? How have you been able to stay intentional with that?
That is a really good question. And my response to that situation has changed over the years. Early on, I found myself very distracted at work because my mind was elsewhere, and that wasn't doing me any good in my position. And in turn, it wasn't doing the team that I was a part of, the company that employed me, because I was not doing as good as I could and as good as I should have been. And so, I would have conversations with my leadership and, correcting that. And very thankfully, they approached me in a constructive manner on, hey, we know what you're up to, not in a bad way. And we know what's important to you, because I've been very transparent of what I do, but there has to be a healthy balance here. And so it progressed from, I'm here physically at work, but mentally I'm elsewhere. And I would really caution people against that kind of mindset, because subconsciously you're doing something to your brain, whether you're saying, I'm going to do really good in this one thing, but I'm not going to do really good in the other parts of my life. And your brain subconsciously doesn't get that, right? You either are the same way the whole way through, and that's something that is consistent and healthy, or you're here and there, up and down, more or less invested in the things that you're doing, and you're not going to have consistency. It's not going to be healthy in probably a lot of aspects of your life. If you neglect your family for your hobby, you neglect your job for your business, you neglect your health for your whatever it is, whatever else people might have. But over the years, it's definitely changed into which I see my business growing, and I'm thankful for it, and it needs its attention. But my job is also very important to the well-being of my business. And if I'm going to be really good at what I do for my business, I need to be really good at what I do in my job. So not to say I don't get distracted sometimes, but more often than not, I do my best to make sure whatever I'm doing in one part of my life, I'm doing it everywhere else. That way I am feeding my brain, my mind, my heart, the right things all the time. And it is the same type of output no matter what I'm doing.
And how you transition, well, and I'll get to you in just a second, how you transition says a lot about you as a person. And it says, and that's the follow you. I was actually just talking, in my job, I have the privilege of getting to lead a team of, 10 to 15 or so. And I was sitting down with one of our team members, one of our part-timers, and he was a young guy, early 20s, and he was just asking questions about reputation. Like, what does reputation mean? And really what I told him is, I said, reputation is you can ask anyone from any circle of any season of your life right now about you, and what they say will match each other. That's what your reputation is. The common threads that those people, whether it's, oh yeah, I talked to this person in my family, or I talked to this person at my work, or I talked to this person at the game store, or I talked to this person from the Caterpillar Crew Discord, all those people saying the same thing about me is what my reputation is. And so one of the things I talked through with him is just, hey, let's write up on a whiteboard. If I were to ask your girlfriend about who you are, what are the words that she would say? If I were to ask your mom about who you are, what were the words that she would say? If I were to ask your boss about who you are, what are those words that you're going to say? And that stuff follows you. So like you talk about the 5-star reviews on Google with your stores, those things, when you string all of those together, that's where trust is really built in a business and personal life regardless. And that's what I love is like we go on Google and we always joke, like Chase and I have a running joke with restaurants. If we see a 4.7 or above, we're going to go check it out. But the important thing is it's not 4.7 with 4 reviews. We want that
Right,
4.7 with 400 reviews, because then there's a trust that's built, being like, okay, this is not a couple people just got paid off to write this review. It's no, this has a long-standing track record. So, all right.
Then on a personal level, I'm hearing you say all of this about your growth personally, and I'm like, man, what a leader, because now you can equip and empower the culture that you want in the future. So it was just very cool to hear you kind of say all these things that you're finding, and all of these things that are true leadership things that some people struggle to learn, that you are discovering, maybe naturally, maybe with some of like the wisdom from others around you. But again, just great job on that.
I love that you have a mentor too. That's one of my favorite things, because I'm not a part of the Caterpie crew as a full-time thing. Like, I just come over and help out with things and do stuff like this, and I love it.
Thane's the most like official, non-official Caterpie employee.
Not real.
No, I think it's great.
It's funny when we go to conventions, they're like Thane or Shameless, and I'm like, all right, you're an OG, you've been around, because I'm not in many of the videos anymore. But anyways, one of the jobs that I have felt has been a part of my kind of involvement with the Caterpie crew is just like what I call the car ride conversations. Like when we're driving home,
the best of that.
Like, we're just going to talk about the business, talk about the things that are working, talk about the things that are not.
My favorite type of talks.
Oh, they're great. Like Chase and I, over the years, I remember vividly, I bring it up with him often, when brother Dave was on the team, and I stole him away to come work for me at the church for a little bit. And he's like, maybe I'll get one more, but this will never be more than a 2-man operation. I can't, because Chase, he didn't want the idea of having to organize all that was a lot to him. And I was like, dude, it's going to be more than a 2-man operation. Like, you are too good at what you do. You are too gifted of a leader for it to not grow. And when it grows and you want to maintain the life balance that you have right now, it's going to have to grow in team too. And obviously we look now, and he's got Alpal and Matt and Nolan and Skylar and David. He's got this amazing team that's working with him, but those conversations are incredibly valuable. So here, I've got one more question for you. When if you're looking, let's say, I'm going to say 5 years, just because you've grown so rapidly over even the past 2 years with your business, when you're looking 5 years out, what would you love for you, your life, your business, your career? What would you like for that to look like 5 years from now?
Yeah, it's crazy, because
it's a loaded question.
With how busy I've been, it's hard for me to see past maybe like 2-3 months. Yeah. And the reason I say that is because, some days I wake up and one of my kids looks significantly older, and then, their desires change and hobbies change. And then my life changes around that. Or it could be, there's a new TCG set that's coming out soon, and there's the hype around it, and there's all the sales that come with it, and then the build up to and from, and then that kind of changes like my workload and the expectations of our business. So thinking out that far, I know that I should, and it's just there's so much inconsistencies around the different models that our business employs. But, if I look back from this point, my mentor actually told me this when I was talking to him the other day about, this idea of really giving our business a full-time chance, he goes, think of the conversations that you and I were having, my mentor and I, 2 years ago, before we opened a brick and mortar, while he was teaching me comics, and we were talking about opening a business, and he was guiding me on branding. He helped me, and even our logo, just those types of things. And he goes, and now look where you are now, 1.5 years later. Like, just see the growth that you've had, the sustainability, the lessons that you've learned, what you've been able to add to your arsenal as in terms of like experience and tools and things like that. And he goes, now think 1.5 years ahead. And I'm like, I can't, it's so hard, but in my brain, I want to open up more locations. I want to build I don't know about a worldwide brand, but I want to be everywhere all the time. That's what I tell people when it comes to marketing, advertising, or any of our efforts, everywhere all the time. And everywhere we go, and while we are there, it has to be the best that it can possibly be. And I'm a very competitive person by nature. So to say all that is, I know what I'm opening myself up to. But man, 5 years out, I can't even think that far. But if I were to look at our business and our continual growth through our continued efforts over the last, especially the last year, when I say we would have really got serious by adding employees, opening more days, adding distributors, I would love to see us have, another maybe 2 shop locations. My time, I want to be able to be in the business, a few days a week, and then be able to just go someplace with my family. I don't care to be like, it's not my goal to be just filthy rich. I just want to have what we need to have to be able to survive, and maybe some play money to be able to do things, and some savings in case something happens. But I really just can't see that far ahead into the future, because everything's just right in front of me. I feel like sometimes I'm bailing the water out of the ship while it's trying to go from island to island.
You're present, man. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. All right, last question for you. If you were talking to someone, because there's probably someone listening right now, just whether it's they're in the Discord or they're just viewing the podcast, and right now they're in the side hustle stage of this thing. Maybe they're going to shows and buying and selling, or maybe they've got a small shop, like a 195 square foot shop or something like that. And they're hoping and dreaming about a future of, man, I would love for this to be my career. Obviously, you're kind of on that brink of that decision point now. What advice would you give to them at the beginning of that journey that could help them?
I would say a few things. I would say be willing to sacrifice your time. I would say to prioritize the things that are most important to you. And that includes, a job that makes it possible, a family that loves you, kids that need you, your other responsibilities. Don't neglect your health or other obligations that you have. I would say delay, the payouts as much as possible. Pour back into your business as often as you can responsibly do so. Seek wise counsel, find a mentor, somebody that you trust, somebody that has a track record, somebody that you can talk to, not just about business, but personal life, because so often those things are just so in tune with each other. So having one or more people, I wouldn't say get a bunch. I wouldn't say like have 4, 5, 6, 7 people, like really find maybe 1 or 2 people that you can tell them the best and worst parts about you and your business, and really get advice on that. And I would also, and this is something I wanted to make sure that I mentioned, to credit to Chase, was one of the first Discord calls that I was on 2 years ago. I think it was July 2 years ago. We were talking about sourcing, and the topic of networking came up. And I spoke up and I said, I don't team up with anybody. I want all the deals all the time. It's all me, baby. I'm the most competitive person. I will, whatever. And I never forget, I can still hear Chase's voice in my head. And he goes, Steezy, because that's why I go by in the Discord. And he goes, I hear you. He goes, you're missing out on some incredible relationships and opportunities by not teaming up with people. And even then I thought it was like the kid being told by his parent, like, don't do that. It's wrong. You're like, yeah, whatever, Dad. Okay. I had an opportunity not 2 weeks later at a yard sale where I connected with someone I knew who was a reseller, and I had a split second to either work with this guy knowing what he was doing, or just, whatever, dude, I'm going to get as much as I can out of this. And I ended up working a deal with this guy that turned into another deal. And now this guy's one of my, closest friends who helped me make Pokemon a reality in my shop. He supplied all the cards, all the packs, all the boxes until we were able to get our own. And we just worked through commission. And I have 2 or 3, maybe 4 other instances where I've built those relationships because I was willing to set aside that competitive nature, that prideful nature that I had, to work with other people who were good people. They weren't just anybody, but they were good people that I could trust. We could float deals each other's way, help each other out, and then have also just come to know them, their families, what's important to them. And when you get into hard spots in your business, like, it's not just enough to say, like, I'm going to make it work no matter what. Like, it can be dark sometimes. It can be so rough. You'll feel like everything is falling down around you. And when you have people that are close to you that understand like the dynamic of business and family and what goes into that, it is so incredibly helpful. Not just in terms of like, oh, no more people, a few more people make relationships, make more sales. Like it's so much further than that. It's more than networking, it's relationships, and it's growing a unit that will allow you to grow in a healthy way, as you just continue to move on, because your personal life and business, if you're doing both the right way, they will blend in. And that's just a fact.
Well, Jesse, thank you very much for your time. This was awesome getting to talk with you like this. We've talked for years, but just getting to sit down and actually do it, especially in the season that you're in. I'm super excited for you. You deserve all the success that you're seeing.
Thanks, man. No, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you having me on. I saw the Chase bought the barn, the $50,000, video. Like the first time I saw that video, I thought I have to know these guys, and the Discord and you guys, and you can just Venmo me the 20 you said you would give me for saying this later.
Yep.
Has honestly been. It has been one of the most resourceful tools for knowledge, but then also for friendship. And so it's really my pleasure and an honor that you guys, had me on here, because you guys have given so much to me and my business and my family that I don't think I'll ever be able to provide as much benefit as I've gotten from you and like the individual people that have contributed through it. So
that's awesome.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, man. Well, we'll do the shameless plug here. I'll put it over Skylar's face right here. So this is Jesse's store right here, Peak Collectibles. You can see the address, the phone number. If you're in that area, go check it out. Leave that 5-star review. Let him know how amazing the experience was. And we're so grateful for Jesse, dude. Thanks for joining us. And we'll catch all of you guys next time on the Reseller Room. Peace.
Bye.